This is Lecture 17, Part 1 of World Religions. We mentioned these in the last lecture, Hinduism, Judaism, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. And of course, these are designated because of their wide scope and the many adherents that each of these religions have. And again, Judaism is included in this group of world religions, even though it has very few members. They number probably, 10, 11, 12 million. But because of Judaism's profound impact on Christianity and Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam became missionary religions with a zeal to spread their respective faith and practices. What caused world religions to spread? Well, Christianity and Buddhism would benefit from the good roads that had been built during the classical era. Missionary activity often followed the trade routes on these roads. Religion was often used to cement loyalty between the ruler and the ruled. Commercial success often followed religious faith. St. Paul's missions to the Gentiles turned Christianity into a world religion as opposed to simply a regional religion. And of course, St. Paul's work spreading Christianity into Europe will be magnified again in 1492 when Columbus takes Christianity to the New World. Christianity is further expanded by Constantine's Edict of Milan and the decisions made at the Council of Nicaea in 325 of the Common Era. At Nicaea, the Christian bishops were summoned by Constantine, the Roman emperor, to settle some issues. The relationship between God and Jesus, the date with which we should celebrate Easter. Constantine commissioned the first Bible, which meant that the books that would be included in the Bible had to be chosen, and those books that were to be left out. So we have this sort of remarkable conference of Christian bishops at Nicaea, perhaps the most important gathering of Christian bishops in history. Transitions. Polytheistic religions are increasingly eliminated or absorbed by these larger, better organized, monotheistic faiths. Mono, of course, one. Theism refers to God, one God. Conversions involve compromise with polytheism. Monotheistic temples built where old pagan temples had stood. Syncretism, we've talked about this key term before, where local traditions blend with new world religions. So these world religions are tweaked, shall we say, modified by local custom. Expansion. Buddhism spread from India eastward and northward. Hinduism tended to stay home. It spread some, but then it sort of retracted and stayed in India. We talked about Christianity and its spread a few moments ago, and we'll talk about that again. Islam spread across the Middle East, North Africa, India, and then into Central Asia. Islam often displaced Buddhism as it spread. Buddhism was not a religion of the book, as the Muslims call it. Christians and Jews are regarded as people of the book by Muslims. Buddhists are not. Of course, Islam shares prophets with both Jews and Christians. Buddhism had a less clearly defined relationship with the state. Buddhism is more ascetic, otherworldly, a rejection of the material world. You may remember desire is the source of all suffering. Eliminate desire and eliminate suffering. So it's more ascetic, more otherworldly. World religions all posited the fundamental spiritual equality of all believers. Again, a factor in the expansion of world religions, a sense of egalitarianism. Access of a soul and access to eternal rewards are open to all. Again, you see this egalitarianism, this sense of equality. Now, it's recognized that social inequality and poverty would always exist. Religious purpose was not to fight against inevitable despair, but to promise a better afterlife. A better afterlife to make this burden of life here on earth more bearable. World religions do not crusade against social inequality, as this would upset the state. World religions specified that women had souls alongside men. Again, it creates unity. World religions provided opportunities for women, in contrast to Hinduism, where women have a definite second-class status. World religions sustained patriarchy, rule by men. Women had a greater propensity to sin. Therefore, religious devotion might distract women from their worldly concerns. New institutions emerged that extended women's inequality. In India, you have sati, where the widow will throw herself on the funeral pyre of her dead husband, as she would become a burden on society otherwise. You see foot binding in China, again, extending women's inequality. World religions also made almsgiving or charity a religious duty for the relief of the poor, the sick, orphans, and other sufferers in this world. You see this in the three great monotheistic religions. How about world religions and trade? How to blend the secular or the worldly with the clerical, the spiritual, the life of the church. A quote from Jesus, you may remember this, quote, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter heaven," unquote. So how do we reconcile, on the one hand, this sort of contempt for commerce, which we see in Christianity and in Confucianism? How do we reconcile that with the fact that trade, commerce, and religion tend to go hand in hand? Missionaries would establish outposts that traders would use. Commerce and faith traveled the same paths. Monotheism might encourage further travel if there is only one God accepted everywhere. So again, there's a sense of unity, which has the effect of facilitating commerce. Let's draw some conclusions here. Religion and the rulers. An ambiguous alliance between rulers and religion was a leading feature of this age. Official patronage of religious institutions, monasteries, temples, churches, mosques, benefited donor and recipient alike. Rule and religion, the relationship, also limited arbitrary royal or imperial power by subordinating rulers to the same moral and religious rules as everyone else. Rulers protect religion, while religion lends legitimacy to the king. So, a brief look, part one, of world religions. In part two, we'll look more closely at Islam. Thank you.